All right, Congresswoman Diane Black from Tennessee joins us on the program right now. Representative, good talking with you again.
It's great to be with you, Cam. Thank you for having me on.
It is my pleasure. So tell me about the FIREARM Act. I know this was introduced in the last session of Congress, but it's back now. There's a Senate companion bill. What does this legislation do?
Well, first of all, when someone fills out paperwork as is necessary to buy a firearm, both the store owner and also the person that's purchasing have to fill out a form. And on that form, since 1968, there has been a provision there that they have to fill in their race, which I object to begin with. But in 2012, ATF added an additional category of ethnicity. And it gets kind of confusing because when someone's filling this out, first of all, the store owners are telling me that the purchaser is asking them, why do I have to fill all of this out? What is businesses of the government to say I have to put my race, my ethnicity on there? You know, this is my right to purchase a firearm, and I shouldn't have to answer all these unnecessary questions. And some people even feel that it is racist to be asking me what's my ethnicity and race. So we went to work looking at this and said, why did this new category show up? And the ATF cannot tell you why it showed up. I have suspicions about why. But here's what happens. If both of those categories are not filled in, then the ATF on their audit can either fine or close down the gun owner or close down the gun shop. And we just believe this is totally wrong, and that's the reason why we brought this bill.
You know, and Congressman, have you heard, because as you lay it out, again, I've got those same questions. Why is this being done? What's the information for? What have you heard from ATF? What have you heard from the administration about why this information is being collected?
Well, the ATF blames this on the OMB, which is the Office of Management Budget. But in essence, really what OMB says, and they did require them to put this additional category on there, but what OMB says is they just had a rule that was put in place back in the Clinton administration that if you ask for race, you should ask for ethnicity. And the reason for that is on certain things like housing to be sure there's not discrimination. But in this case, it doesn't apply. So there was no directive that came down from OMB to say you had to do it. ATF is just trying to point their fingers at OMB and say, well, they're the ones that made me do it. And OMB says, no, we're not the ones that made you do it, but we said if you ask for one in order to be sure you're not discriminating. Well, when you buy a gun, this is not a discriminatory process unless you're asking for these pieces of information that should be not necessary. You know, when you have your Second Amendment and you have a right to that Second Amendment, the government should be colorblind. They shouldn't even be asking these questions, which is the reason why our bill just simply says, if you want to fill it out, that's fine, but you're not required to do it, and neither can the ATF fine or close down a gun shop if it is not on that form.
Congresswoman Diane Black from Tennessee, and as I mentioned, this issue is drawing some bipartisan support in Congress this session.
We're gaining a lot of support when I explain this to people, even people that maybe aren't necessarily big Second Amendment rights people. Perhaps they don't carry a gun themselves, but they feel that this is a constitutional right, and it is provided to us by our Constitution, and therefore we shouldn't do things to impinge upon people's rights. They can say, oh, yeah, okay, I'll sign on.
You know, and that's interesting because you're right. Not everybody who has signed on, is A-rated by the NRA. I would love it if maybe this prompted them to start thinking more about the Second Amendment and maybe supporting the Second Amendment, but I'll take it.
Even the ACLU came out and said this was discriminatory, that it wasn't necessary. So a liberal organization like that coming on board and saying it isn't the right thing to do either is pretty remarkable.
Well, it is, and it's good to see that type of bipartisanship in Washington. So what can gun owners around the country do to help move this bill forward?
I would love for them to call their congressman, first of all, to say thank you for those who have signed on. And then for those that see that their congressman is not signed on, to ask them to please do so.
What's the bill number, Representative?
Oh,
Or can we just refer to it? Can we just refer to it as the Firearm Act? Will our congressperson know what we're talking about?
Well, you can refer to it as the Firearm Act, but I'm going to also give you the number, and the number is HR 1739.
HR 1739. All right.
Yeah, and we have 46 sponsors now in the House. We'd like to get up around 100 sponsors. Once you get to that point, our leadership really looks at it seriously and decides then that it can move forward. So we really need people to help us out with this.
Congresswoman, listen, thank you so much for coming on the program. I really appreciate your time this afternoon.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me anytime.
You bet. Look forward to doing this again soon. Congresswoman Diane Black joins us from Tennessee, talking again about the Firearm Act, H.R. 1739, which would drop the requirement to provide your race and ethnicity on the 4473 forms.